The echoes of past pain, the invisible injuries that shape your present, these are the deepest wounds that Carl Jung, a master architect of the human psyche, believed could not only be understood but profoundly healed. If you are here, it's because you carry such wounds. You feel their weight, their subtle or not so subtle distortions in your life, your relationships, your very sense of self. You've likely tried to ignore them, to outrun them, to cover them with fleeting distractions or superficial fixes, only to find them re-emerging, perhaps stronger, perhaps in disguise. Today, we're not talking about band-aids. We are diving into the profound, challenging, and ultimately liberating wisdom of Carl Jung to understand how you can genuinely heal those deep-seated injuries. This isn't a gentle pat on the back, it's a call to courage, a roadmap into the depths of your own being, because how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds isn't just a title, it's a promise of transformation if you're willing to do the work. The journey inward is the most critical you will ever undertake, and Jung provides the compass and the lantern. Forget simplistic self-help. We are going to the core. To truly grasp how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds, we must first acknowledge the nature of these wounds from his perspective. Psychological wounds are not merely bad memories or unfortunate events. They are living energies within your psyche, imprints that distort your perception, dictate your reactions, and sap your vitality. Jung understood that symptoms, the anxiety that gnaws at you, the depression that smothers your light, the destructive patterns you can't seem to break, the toxic relationships you keep attracting, these are not the problems themselves. They are messengers from the soul, desperate signals from the unconscious pointing towards unhealed injuries, towards aspects of yourself that have been fractured, ignored, or suppressed. The brutal truth is this: your attempts to silence these messengers, to numb the pain they bring, only drive the wound deeper, allowing it to fester in the darkness of your unconscious. You can't medicate away a soul sickness. You can't positive think your way out of a trauma that hasn't been met with courage and understanding. Superficial fixes, positive affirmations plastered over gaping chasms, are an insult to the depth of your being. They might offer temporary relief, a fleeting sense of control, but they will never, ever heal the fundamental injury. Jung's wisdom demands more. It demands that you turn and face the abyss within. The first non-negotiable step in this healing journey is radical, unflinching acknowledgement. You must have the raw courage to look at your pain, your dysfunction, your suffering, not as a mark of shame or failure, but as a sacred map leading you back to yourself. Ignoring these wounds, pretending they don't exist or don't matter, is an act of profound self-betrayal. It's like having a broken leg and insisting on running a marathon. You'll only cause more damage and prolong the agony. Jung teaches that these wounds, when unaddressed, don't just sit passively. They actively influence your choices, your moods, your energy levels, often from completely hidden vantage points. They are the unseen puppeteers pulling your strings. Healing, therefore, begins with the terrifying but essential act of looking inward, of saying, yes, this hurts. Yes, this is a part of my story. And yes, I am ready to understand it, not as a victim, but as an archaeologist of my own soul. This is the foundation upon which all Jungian healing is built. Now let's delve into one of Jung's most pivotal and often most confronting concepts, the shadow. To understand how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds, you must be willing to meet your shadow. The shadow is the repository of all that you have disowned about yourself, your perceived weaknesses, your socially unacceptable desires, your repressed anger, your shame, your guilt, your insecurities, and crucially, the raw, unprocessed pain of your deepest wounds. These are the aspects of your personality that you've deemed unworthy, unlovable, or dangerous, and so you've pushed them into the unconscious, hoping they'd disappear. But they don't disappear. They congeal, forming this powerful, autonomous part of your psyche. Your deepest wounds often become core components of your shadow because the experiences that caused them made you feel fundamentally flawed or unacceptable. The shame or terror associated with the trauma gets relegated to this inner darkness. The brutal truth about the shadow is this: what you refuse to see and own within yourself will control you from without. An unacknowledged shadow doesn't just sit quietly, it projects. You start seeing your own disowned anger, greed, or insecurity in everyone around you. The colleague you despise for their arrogance might be mirroring your own repressed ambition or a fear of your own power. The patterns of toxic relationships you find yourself in are often driven by attracting people who embody the disowned parts of yourself, forcing you to confront them indirectly and painfully. Furthermore, an unintegrated shadow is the primary engine of self-sabotage. It's the inner voice that whispers doubt just when you're about to succeed, the impulse that makes you lash out and destroy something good, the inexplicable pull towards choices that you know will cause you pain. This isn't some demonic entity. It's you, the parts of you crying out for recognition and integration. Healing through shadow work is not about eliminating the shadow. That's impossible and undesirable, for the shadow also contains immense power, creativity, and authenticity, your gold, as Jung called it. Healing is about bringing the shadow into consciousness, integrating its contents, and thereby neutralizing its destructive, unconscious control. This means courageously examining your triggers. What makes you disproportionately angry, fearful, or judgmental? It means looking at your projections. What qualities in others evoke a strong, irrational response in you? It means being brutally honest about your own negative traits and impulses without succumbing to self-loathing. The process involves conscious self-reflection, perhaps through journaling, asking yourself difficult questions like, what part of me does this person or situation activate? Or what am I most afraid of others seeing in me? It requires a profound shift from judgment to curiosity, from condemnation to a willingness to understand the function and origin of these disowned parts. This is not comfortable work. It means admitting to pettiness, to envy, to fear, to rage. But the freedom that comes from owning your whole self, light and shadow, is immeasurable. It's the path to authenticity and the only way to stop the unconscious sabotage that perpetuates your wounds. Your deepest wounds cannot heal if the aspects of yourself tied to them remain exiled in the shadow. Bringing them into the light of awareness with compassion and a commitment to understanding is a cornerstone of how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds. The unconscious mind, in Jung's view, is not a mere dumping ground for repressed memories, but a vast, intelligent realm, a source of profound wisdom, guidance, and creative energy essential for healing. To understand how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds, you must learn to listen to the language of your soul, which primarily speaks through the unconscious, often in ways that your rational mind finds perplexing. Dreams are a primary vehicle for this communication. Jung considered dreams to be direct, unvarnished messages from the unconscious, offering insights into our inner conflicts, our unhealed wounds, and the path towards wholeness or individuation. They are not random neural firings, they are carefully constructed psychic dramas, rich with symbolic meaning, tailored specifically to the dreamer. Beyond dreams, the unconscious communicates through symbols encountered in waking life, synchronicities, intuitive flashes, images, or stories that deeply resonate with us, even physical symptoms that have no apparent medical cause. These are all potential keys, attempts by the deeper self to get our attention, to guide us towards what needs healing. The brutal truth here is that your conscious, rational ego, with its limited perspective and its desire for control, often doesn't have the answers to your deepest problems. In fact, it's frequently part of the problem, suppressing the very messages that could lead to healing because they are uncomfortable or challenge its worldview. Your soul speaks a different, more ancient language, the language of myth, symbol, and image. To heal your deepest wound, you must become a student of this language. How can you work with your dreams and unconscious messages for healing? First, cultivate respect for this inner world. Keep a dream journal by your bed. Upon waking, before your rational mind fully engages and dismisses the fleeting images, jot down everything you can remember, the setting, the characters, the emotions, any striking symbols or dialogue. Don't try to interpret immediately, just record. Over time, look for recurring themes, symbols, or emotional patterns. What figures keep appearing? What feelings dominate your dreamscapes? Jung emphasized looking at personal associations first. What does a particular symbol mean to you, given your life experiences, before you rush to a dream dictionary? While archetypal symbols exist, their specific manifestation in your dream is filtered through your unique psyche. Ask yourself, how did I feel in the dream? What in my current life resonates with this feeling or situation? The unconscious often uses dreams to compensate for a one-sided conscious attitude. If you are overly controlled and rigid in waking life, your dreams might be chaotic and wild, urging you towards more flexibility and spontaneity. If you are suppressing grief, your dreams might be filled with images of loss or water, gently or not so gently nudging you to feel. Learning to engage with this symbolic language isn't about finding definitive, concrete answers, but about fostering a dialogue with your deeper self. It's about being open to the possibility that the parts of you that you don't consciously control possess a profound wisdom concerning your healing. This respectful attention to the unconscious is a vital component of how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds, because it opens a direct channel to the guidance system designed to lead you back to wholeness. Within the vast landscape of the unconscious, Jung identified powerful, universal patterns of human experience and imagery he called archetypes. Understanding archetypes is crucial if you want to leverage how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds, because they provide a framework for understanding the universal dimensions of your personal pain and the inherent potentials for healing. Archetypes are like psychic instincts, inherited blueprints for typical human situations, roles, and emotional responses. The hero, the mother, the father, the child, the wise old man, woman, the trickster, the shadow itself, and many others. When you experience a deep wound, it often activates specific archetypal energies. For instance, early childhood trauma might constellate the wounded child archetype or the orphan archetype within your psyche. This means you might navigate the world with the underlying sensitivities, fears, and needs of a wounded or abandoned child, even as an adult. Recognizing that the wounded child archetype is active in you doesn't mean you are just a victim. It means a universal pattern of wounding is expressing itself through your personal story. This understanding can be incredibly depersonalizing in a positive way. It helps you see that your struggles, while intensely personal, are also part of the broader human condition. The brutal truth is that your pain, as unique as it feels, echoes ancient human struggles. This isn't to diminish your experience, but to dignify it, to place it within a larger, meaningful context. And if there are universal patterns of wounding, there are also universal patterns of healing and strength. For every wounded child, there's the potential for the magical child or the divine child archetypes of resilience, creativity, and hope. If you're dominated by the victim archetype, understanding this allows you to consciously begin cultivating the hero or survivor archetype within. Jung's wisdom here is that by identifying which archetypes are most active in relation to your wounds, you gain profound insight into your unconscious motivations, your relational patterns, and the specific needs that must be met for healing to occur. For example, if the martyr archetype is strong, you might continually sacrifice your own needs to your detriment, perpetuating your wounds. Healing involves recognizing this pattern and consciously choosing to embody an archetype of healthy self-care and assertion. How can you work with this? Pay attention to the recurring roles you play in your life, the types of stories that deeply move you, the figures in myths, literature, or film that you strongly identify with or react against. These can offer clues to your dominant archetypes. Reflect on how these archetypal patterns might be influencing your perception of your wounds and your attempts, or lack thereof, to heal them. For example, is a persecutor archetype, either projected onto others or an internal voice, keeping you locked in a cycle of shame related to your wound? Understanding these archetypal dynamics transforms your suffering from a purely personal affliction into a meaningful engagement with the fundamental forces of human existence. It empowers you to consciously shift from being unconsciously driven by these patterns to actively co-creating your healing journey by invoking and embodying more resourceful archetypal energies. This archetypal perspective is a profound gift from How Carl Jung's Wisdom Can Heal Your Deepest Wounds. At the heart of Jung's psychology lies the concept of individuation, the lifelong, innate human urge to become a psychologically whole, distinct, and integrated individual. This is not about becoming perfect in some superficial sense, but about becoming fully and authentically yourself. Understanding individuation is absolutely paramount if you wish to comprehend how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds. Because in essence, the healing of your deepest wounds is an integral part of your individuation journey. Unhealed wounds are like roadblocks on this path. They keep you fragmented, stuck in repetitive patterns, and prevented from realizing your full potential. They tether you to the past, distort your perception of the present, and limit your vision for the future. Therefore, the drive to heal is synonymous with the drive to individuate. The brutal truth here is that genuine healing, the kind that leads to lasting wholeness, isn't about erasing your scars or pretending your wounds never happened. That's an illusion. Instead, individuation and the healing it encompasses is about integrating those wounded parts of yourself, along with your shadow, your strengths, and all your unique complexities, into a larger, more conscious, and more resilient self. Your scars become part of your story, sources of wisdom and compassion, rather than sources of shame and limitation. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It demands courage, perseverance, and a willingness to confront discomfort and psychic pain. Jung himself said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But avoiding this confrontation is to avoid life itself, to avoid the very process of becoming who you are meant to be. The individuation process involves differentiating yourself from collective norms and expectations, the persona you present to the world, and also from the unconscious contents that control you from within, like unintegrated complexes and shadow aspects. It's about finding your unique path, listening to your own inner authority, and living in accordance with your deepest values and truth. Healing your wounds is critical to this because these wounds often dictate your choices unconsciously, forcing you to live a life that isn't truly your own, but rather a reaction to past trauma. How do you actively engage in individuation and thereby heal? It begins with the commitment to ruthless self-honesty we've already discussed. It involves the shadow work, the dream work, the engagement with archetypes. But it also involves making conscious choices day by day that align with your emerging authentic self, even when those choices are difficult, unpopular, or scary. It means taking responsibility for your inner state rather than blaming external circumstances or other people for your unhappiness. It means embracing the tension of opposites within yourself, your light and your shadow, your strengths and your weaknesses, and striving for a synthesis, a wholeness that transcends these dualities. This is not a quick fix, it's the work of a lifetime. But every step taken on the path of individuation, every wound faced and integrated, brings you closer to a profound sense of inner peace, meaning, and authentic power. This journey to wholeness is how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds in its most complete sense. To actively engage with the contents of your unconscious and facilitate the integration necessary for healing, Jung developed a powerful technique called active imagination. This isn't mere daydreaming, it's a conscious, intentional dialogue with the figures and energies of your inner world. Embracing active imagination is a potent way to apply how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds in a direct, experiential manner. Many of your deepest wounds and the complexes or shadow aspects associated with them exist as semi-autonomous energies within your psyche. They have their own perspectives, their own pain, their own unmet needs. Active imagination allows you to give these inner figures a voice, to interact with them, understand them, and ultimately to negotiate a new relationship with them, leading to integration and healing. The brutal truth is that the answers and the healing capacity you desperately seek are often locked within these unconscious parts of yourself. You can't just think your way to them with your rational mind alone. You need to engage them on their own terms in the symbolic, imaginal language they understand. Active imagination provides the bridge. How does it work? You begin by focusing on a particular mood, a dream image, a fantasy, or a personified aspect of your wound, e.g., my inner critic, my fear, the part of me that feels broken. You allow an image to arise, and then, while maintaining conscious awareness, you let the image or figure develop. You can speak to it, ask it questions. Who are you? What do you want? What do you need from me? Why are you causing me this pain? And then you listen, allowing the figure to respond, either through words, images, or feelings. The key is to let the unconscious express itself without censorship from your conscious ego, yet without becoming completely overwhelmed or lost in the fantasy. You are both participant and observer. This dialogue can be carried out through writing, drawing, painting, sculpting, dance, or even just through inner visualization. The medium is less important than the authenticity of the engagement. The healing power of active imagination comes from several sources. Firstly, it makes the unconscious conscious, bringing hidden dynamics into the light of awareness. Secondly, it allows for the expression and release of pent-up emotional energy associated with your wounds. Thirdly, by engaging these inner figures respectfully, you begin to transform your relationship with them from one of conflict or suppression to one of understanding and potential collaboration. You might discover that your inner critic, for example, is actually a distorted manifestation of a protective energy, trying to keep you safe in a misguided way. By dialoguing with it, you can begin to negotiate a more helpful role for that energy. This is not about being controlled by these inner figures, but about achieving a more democratic and integrated psyche, where all parts have a voice and can contribute to the whole. A simplified way to begin might be to write a dialogue. Choose an emotion or a symptom related to your wound. Personify it, give it a name. Then write a conversation between you, your conscious ego, and this personified part. Be honest, be curious, be open to surprising answers. Active imagination requires patience and practice, but it is one of the most direct methods Jung offered for metabolizing unconscious content and thereby fostering the deep psychic integration that is synonymous with healing. It is a powerful, hands-on tool within the arsenal of how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds. The journey outlined by Jung, this deep dive into the psyche to confront and integrate the sources of your pain, is undoubtedly challenging. It requires a level of honesty and courage that many shy away from. But how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds is not a promise of an easy path. It's a promise of a real path, one that leads to authentic transformation rather than temporary fixes. We've explored the necessity of acknowledging your wounds, not as shameful secrets, but as calls from your soul. We've ventured into the shadowy terrain of your disowned self, understanding that true strength lies in integrating this darkness, not denying it. We've learned to listen to the subtle, symbolic language of the unconscious, particularly through dreams, recognizing it as a source of profound guidance. We've seen how understanding the archetypal patterns active in your life can illuminate the universal dimensions of your personal suffering and point towards innate resources for healing. And we've touched upon the lifelong journey of individuation, the courageous path to becoming whole, where healing your wounds is an essential milestone, not an optional detour. Finally, we've considered active imagination as a direct means of dialoguing with and integrating the fragmented parts of your psyche. Each of these elements, drawn from Jung's vast body of work, offers a practical avenue not just for understanding your wounds, but for actively transmuting their painful energy into wisdom, compassion, and strength. The brutal truth is that there are no shortcuts to healing the injuries that reside in the soul's depths. The modern world, with its obsession with quick fixes, instant gratification, and the avoidance of discomfort, often steers you away from the very inner work that is required. But Jung's wisdom stands as a timeless corrective, reminding you that the psyche has its own rhythms, its own demands, and its own profound capacity for self-healing, if only you create the conditions for it. The choice, as always, is yours. You can continue to allow your unhealed wounds to dictate the terms of your life, to live in the shadows of past pain, reacting rather than creating, or you can heed the call of your own depths. You can embrace the challenge of Jungian exploration. You can commit to the courageous work of facing your shadow, listening to your unconscious, integrating your fragmented parts, and striving for wholeness. This is not merely about feeling better, though that is a byproduct. It is about becoming more of who you truly are, free from the unconscious tyranny of past injuries. It is about reclaiming your energy, your authenticity, and your inherent right to a deeply meaningful life. So begin. Start with one small step. Pick up a journal. Pay attention to your dreams. Question your projections. Dare to look at what you've disowned. The path of how Carl Jung's wisdom can heal your deepest wounds is open to you. It is a journey into the heart of your own mystery, and the treasures to be found there are beyond measure. Your deepest wounds can indeed become your greatest source of strength and wisdom if you are brave enough to meet them.